Mr. President, I'm down on the Senate floor here to try to pass two really important pieces of legislation for a great part of Alaska, and this is the Alaska Native community in my state. These are incredible, patriotic Americans. By the way, Alaska Natives serve at higher rates in the military than any other ethnic group in the country. They are great Americans. They add so much to our state. They are the first peoples of Alaska. And so in my state, it's almost about 20% of the population, Mr. President. So it's a population I care deeply about. We work closely with them on so many different issues across so many different areas. And so I like to legislate in the areas that matter to them. And we're going to do that, lately, and I'm going to try and stay positive here. I've given speeches on the Senate floor about this before. Some of my Democratic colleagues on the other side of the aisle have taken it out on the Alaska Native people in legislation, really kind of bad stuff. Now, I'm not going to be negative, but there has been this trend of a anti-Alaska Native bias on the other side of the aisle. It's been very disappointing, to be honest, Mr. President. It's been puzzling. But I'm hoping today these two bills that we're going to move forward that go to the heart of Alaska Native culture in one and Alaska Native patriotism in the other are going to be UC'd. I know my Republican colleagues have already passed on these. So the first piece of legislation, Mr. President, I want to bring up is what we call the Alaska's Right to Ivory Sales and Tradition. The acronym on that is the Artists Act. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on this. For thousands of years, Alaska Natives have responsibly harvested whales, walrus, other marine mammals from our northern seas. These animals are eaten, shared, honored, and no part of the animal goes to waste. They still do this tradition in my state. They have the right to do it under law. The bones, the ivory, the baleen, even all of those pieces are used for beautiful art. If you've had a chance to visit my office, you've seen the beautiful art that adorns the walls of my Senate office, carvings made from whale baleen, walrus tusks, crafted by Alaska Native artists. Mr. President, this is some of those beautiful art in America. It is deeply ingrained in Alaska's culture, the ability to make this art. It also provides important economic opportunity for our artists in many of these remote villages, artists who rely on the ability to sell these works to Alaskans and the hundreds of thousands of people who come to my great state to visit, who want to take home a piece of Alaska Native heritage. So it's a win-win-win for everybody, but it's an economic driver of a lot of small villages in my state. And by the way, Mr. President, carving, harvesting walrus ivory is completely legal under federal law. Federal regulations, federal law, there's no question about that. However, there's been some, I guess, well-intentioned laws from some states that in an attempt to ban African elephant ivory, which we all want to do that's not allowed in America, by the way, states have gone too far and cast this huge net and have said, you can't buy any ivory products anywhere, including Alaska Native products from Alaska walrus harvested. This really has hurt my state. People coming up from states that have banned all ivory say, I can't take that home. I can't buy it. Sorry. So, Mr. President, this is a simple bill. If a visitor wants to come buy some ivory earrings in Alaska by one of our great Alaska Native artists, and they bring them home to a state that has a ban on ivory, which is not sensible. Again, walrus ivory, not Alaskan or not African elephant ivory. We want to be able to say at the federal level, we should be able to do this. So that's what my Artists Act does. It prohibits states from banning the importation, sale, or possession of Alaska Native handicrafts made with walrus ivory. Environmental groups support it. By the way, the Biden administration supported this. It's straightforward, bipartisan legislation that recently, Mr. President, passed unanimously the Commerce Committee. So this is about as bipartisan as it gets. And Mr. President, what I want to do is to cut through the confusion that now exists with certain states and a lot of tourists in my great state, to affirm the right of the Alaska Native people to continue these centuries-old practices of sustainable, respectful ivory carving entirely within federal law, and to be able to make sure that's clarified across the country. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 178, that's Senate 254, further that the committee reported substitute amendment be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be considered, read a third time and passed, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection?
Reserving the right to object.
The senator from California.
So, Mr. President, to ask that the senator modify his request and the Senate proceed to the consideration of the following bills en bloc. Calendar item 178, Senate 254, and calendar item 169, Senate 318, that the committee reported substitute amendments be considered and agreed to en bloc. The bills as amended be considered, read a third time and passed en bloc, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table all en bloc.
Does the senator so modify his request?
Yes, I agree to the modification.
The clerk will report the bills en bloc.
Calendar number 178 S254 to amend the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972 to protect the cultural practices and livelihoods of producers of Alaska Native handicrafts and marine mammal ivory products and for other purposes. Calendar number 169 S318 to require a plan to improve the cybersecurity and telecommunications of the U.S. academic research fleet and for other purposes.
Under the previous order, the committee reported substitutes are considered and agreed to. The bills as amended are considered, read a third time and passed, and the motions to reconsider are considered made and laid on the table all en bloc.
Mr. President, I want to just let people know back home that means that bill, the artist bill that we've been trying to get moved for a long time, just passed the United States Senate. So I want to thank my colleague from California, my friend from California, who has worked with me. By the way, on one of the other bills that just passed, I was a co-sponsor with Senator Padilla on that. So there's good Senate cooperation on these issues. Now, Mr. President, so that's an important issue for Alaska Native heritage, culture, artists, and now it's passed the Senate. So again, I want to thank Senator Padilla.